When we talk about being unhealthy or overweight, what are the first associations that we make with it in our minds? Yes, there's a lot of judgment and images of physicality, but there are also words that come to mind like dieting, going to the gym, intermittent fasting, which is the buzzword these days, keto, and in its more extreme avatars, liposuction or even bariatric surgery. And yet, when you look at the heart of it, the real question we should be asking ourselves is, how did we get there? The entire industry and conversation around being unhealthy, being overweight, has been focused on treating this and treating it as a problem without actually going to where this began. And let me tell you, whether it's hypothyroidism, whether it's PCOS, whether you believe you have a weak or a sluggish metabolism, it all boils down to one thing, which is that the calories that you're burning are less than the calories that you're consuming, or you're in a calorie surplus. Your energy balance has been disrupted. So today, let's understand the root of this and understand our relationship with eating, our relationship with food. Hello, I'm Sandhya and welcome to Dynamic Living. Yes, food is fraught with emotion, with associations, with judgment, like I mentioned before. And if I had to sort of look for where we began with this unhealthy relationship, one could refer to Freud's concept of oral fixation. Of course, that particular theory has been much criticized by modern psychologists. But let's just look at what Freud was trying to say there, which is that as babies, our first instinct is to root for the breast, is to suckle, and this forms a relationship involving our mouths. And too much or too little of satisfaction of this craving of ours creates what he believes is the oral fixation, but really an unhealthy relationship with our mouth, with our food, and could potentially manifest itself in the later years in nail biting, in overeating, in alcoholism, and in various other conditions. But if we think about it very simplistically, what are we treating our mouths, our bodies, what are we treating food as? Philosophically, our outermost sheath is referred to as the food sheath or the Annamaya Kosha. Now, this is the most gross, most obvious, most physical of our sheaths, the easiest to please, as we quite well know, but also is the source of the shortest duration of pleasure. As I think most of us know as well, right? You eat something, you get a few moments of pleasure. You wear something new, you look nice in it, 5 minutes, you're looking good. We seek out pleasure in sexual pleasure, without an emotional or an intellectual or a deeper attachment. It is again another source of instantaneous pleasure. And yet, why is food the big trap for us? And for this, I'm going to use like a very non-philosophical analogy again. Think of our mouths as sort of like a giant vacuum cleaner, and or if you're a movie buff, think of like the ghost busting machine in Ghostbusters, right? With just like swallowed up big old ghosts of any size and of any ferocity. Now, what is happening in our lives is that we feel a certain lack in us. We feel a certain vacuum in us. We feel a sort of affect of dis-ease, unease, of agitation within us. And this seeks to be soothed. This seeks to be filled up, because we all know that nature abhors a vacuum. And how do we do this? Well, strictly speaking, we should be looking at where this feeling of lack comes in, what's wrong with our relationships, what's wrong with our lifestyles, what's going out of balance in our work, in our patterns, in our habits, what are we not addressing within ourselves. But this takes work, and this does not produce any kind of immediate results. So what do we do instead? We bring out our ghost busting vacuum cleaner and we just swallow food in, right? I have a dog who you could put anything in front of him, even if he's just had a meal, and he'll swallow the food whole, and he has absolutely no idea what he's eaten. I mean, like, you can give him medication, you can give him like a vegetable, and he will eat it with as much gusto as a piece of meat. Now, I would like for each of us to look within ourselves, because we all do have some sort of association that we make with food. Food is so tied into our childhood, our first perception of being cared for, of certain memories, of celebrations, and we seek to recreate these feelings of pleasure in our lives. And the easiest way to do that is to make that association with food. So that is the number one cause why we sort of resort to food as our comfort, as our stress buster, as our boredom buster. I'm a boredom eater, and I'll confess to that. Give me a procedural task and the first thing I'll be craving is like a crunchy snack. And just as a side note, for us stress eaters, and for those of us that label ourselves as sweet tooths or chocolate lovers or sugar lovers, please know that every single mammal on this planet is one such. We are hardwired to seek out fattening, simple sugars when we are under stress, because that's going to give us immediate energy, that's going to give us strength, that's going to give us a dopamine hit to run away from a tiger. So are you a sweet tooth? You might be, but so is a rat. So maybe we can go easy with the labeling and just take a step back and understand this relationship instead. The problem with this sort of high is twofold. One, it's not what you wanted in the first place. That gaping hole inside of us is never going to get filled up with food until we actually address what this feeling is. Any kind of coping mechanism or any kind of substitute will be just that, an alternative which gives us no real joy or no real relief, just temporary easing of our pain. And the second danger, far more insidiously, is that a replacement is also just a drug. It's just a numbing mechanism, and the threshold for the numbing gets higher and higher, which means that a simple home-baked tea cake is no longer going to be enough. The next time you crave your sugar fix, you're going to want a triple chocolate brownie sundae fudge. Get my chocolate. Okay. And it goes on and on. Which brings me to the second aspect of this unhealthy relationship, which is the media. Do keep in mind that money gets made, and a lot of it, there is a massive industry of processed foods and drinks that are telling you, buy. This will give you joy, this will give you pleasure, this will revive your old memories. Look at a movie and you'll see that a girl's boyfriend broke up with her. What is she going to do? Get a tub of ice cream, sit on her bed and eat straight out of the box. Or you've had a stressful day at work. What do? Pour yourself a stiff drink and have that. And all of these are associations that we're making. These are habits that we're picking up. These are mindless associations that our brain is making just because it doesn't want to have to make all of these decisions on a day-to-day basis. The third aspect I want to talk about is really our all or nothing mentality. We seem to have this, and it is a well-recorded fallacy, that either we need to be like super fit, and again, we have Instagram and popular media to blame for this, of these insanely fit, insanely flexible, insanely muscular and lean athletic bodies, and then there's us, which seems to be on the other end of the spectrum. The truth, as it usually is somewhere in the middle. And so we need to abandon these notions that unless we go through like some tremendous suffering and tremendous deprivation and torture for our bodies by doing a juice-only cleanse or a very strict deprivational diet, we're never going to get fit. And until we reach that six-pack, we're never going to actually look good. Once we abandon all of these labels and all of these notions, our relationship with food becomes a lot simpler. It's our nourishment. It's one of the many things we consume along with the media and the books that we read and the company that we keep towards building our best selves. I'll invite you to pick these wisely. And the advantage is that the more conscious you become about this process, strangely enough, the more you start to enjoy it. Let food be your meditation. Let food be a source of true joy to you, not just instant gratification. And with this, we can build a healthy and lifelong relationship with it that will serve us well. Thank you for watching.